Hi everyone, this is Migs from Sneaks and Ball PH, and today we have a detailed review on the Puma Clyde All Pro. Before we get started, if you like this video, please make sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Then if you have any comments, questions, or any suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below as well. Then also make sure to join the SNBPH Sneaker Hunters Facebook group because that is our sneaker community, and that's also where I course my monthly giveaways. Then also make sure to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss any video because we do upload a new video twice a week. So to start things off, I actually was able to play with these once before we got into lockdown again, and it is just a little bit frustrating because I was reviewing these and the Nike Cosmic Unities when the number of active cases kinda skyrocketed, which led to all the gyms and courts being shut down again, but at least I was able to play in these ones, so I guess you can consider this sort of an early impressions. Puma has been making really good shoes ever since they came back into the basketball space. You had the Puma Clyde Court Disrupt, you had the Puma Uproar, you had the Puma Legacy, and you also had the Puma Clyde Hardwood, which is one of my personal favorites, the Puma Sky Dreamer, and the Puma RS Dreamer, which is J. Cole's signature shoe. And then now you have their Puma Clyde All Pro, which released alongside the RS Dreamer 2, those new Puma disc-lacing shoes, and the Puma All Pro Kuzma. It was definitely very surprising when they dropped the shoe, and personally I didn't really like how it looked at first, and as of the moment I still would prefer the aesthetics on the Puma Clyde Hardwood or the Puma RS Dreamer. But when I did take these out on court for the first time, these were just simply a beast and might just be one of the best basketball shoes of 2021. So starting off with the tech specs, here on the outsole you have this super grippy traction with this radial pattern and pivot point under the ball of the foot, this sort of parquet floor traction pattern here on the forefoot, and a large crisscross pattern here at the heel. The rubber is just super grippy, and though I only played in it once, I did play in a slightly dirty and poorly finished floor, and these just really stuck to the floor, no problem. I did only play in these ones, so I can't really comment on the durability as of yet, but the rubber is pretty soft and the grooves on the forefoot are a little bit thin, so this might not be one of the better options for outdoor use. However, on indoor courts, this traction is just simply a beast, and it's just really one of the best this year, and it's probably right up there with like the Kobe 6 Pro Throws when it comes to how hard it grips the floor. Then for the cushion, this is definitely the biggest improvement between the Clyde All Pro and the previous Puma basketball shoes. The Puma Clyde Hardwood was a shoe that I really enjoyed using because it did have really beastly traction as well as nice materials. However, the cushion on those was pretty dead and underwhelming, just like most of the earlier Puma basketball shoes. Puma usually did have the materials, the design, and the traction on point, but I am happy to say that Puma finally has a good cushion setup as well to go along with the other things that they already do well. The Puma Clyde All Pro makes use of a Pro Foam Plus midsole that does feel pretty light, pretty responsive, and pretty soft as well. You also have this P-Bax cushion here at the heel, and for those who aren't familiar and who might wonder why this kind of looks like Boost, because P-Bax is basically a general term for a composition of foam, and Boost is a perfect example of P-Bax. Puma has used this P-Bax system before, however this is probably the best implementation of it because you have that full-length Pro Foam Plus and that chunk of P-Bax here at the heel for some additional impact protection. It overall is just a very balanced and comfortable cushion setup, and in my own personal opinion it feels like sort of a beefed up Kobe 8 or a Kobe 9 or a Kobe 11 because that Pro Foam Plus does feel a little bit thicker than the Lunar on those shoes, but you feel just as low to the ground and responsive. Then for the materials, this is kinda where they did most of their cost cutting because this is an affordable shoe, but what you do have is this all textile upper, and the textile is actually pretty tightly woven, but it does have like this fused web underneath, which honestly makes it feel a little crunchy at first, but it does break in really quickly. Once it does break in, it feels pretty soft and moves well with your foot. However, it still has a little bit more of a plastic feel, but you can actually kind of hear it if you run your fingers through it because that's just how textile with a little bit of fuse underneath sounds like. It is really thin though and is pretty comfortable, all things considered, so even though that textile doesn't feel premium, it definitely gets the job done. You also have a little bit more fuse on this yellow portion here near the ankle and wrapping around the tongue of the shoe. It's kind of weird that they put the fuse there and not where the eyelets were, but the eyelets do make use of these thin plastic strands, which I think feel pretty sturdy and hopefully they don't break on me in the future. Then here here at the heel, you do have a thin slice of suede. It does feel a little bit like felt and it is quite thin, but at least you do have a premium accent on the heel part of the shoe. Then lastly, you do have a nice and padded textile sock liner, a nicely padded textile tongue as well, and some basic oval laces. The materials are definitely not the most premium, but they are lightweight and thin while being adequately comfortable. Then even though an all textile upper has its drawbacks in terms of durability, Puma did try remedying this with all of the stitching throughout the shoe, with the thickest additional stitching being here at the back and here on the lateral side of the forefoot, which is usually a high wear area. Then for fit and sizing, I did go true to size with the Puma Clyde All Pro, and it fits me perfectly well. I really do like the overall fit of the shoe. It just fits 1-to-1 and there isn't any dead space throughout the shoe. If you want a comparison on how it fits, it kind of fits like a Kobe. So it fits pretty much 1-to-1 like a Kobe 6 or like a Kobe 8 or even an engineered mesh version of the Kobe 11. So my recommendation for the sizing is that if you have a narrow foot or a normal width foot, you should go true to size. Then if you have a wider foot, even though you do have that textile upper, you should probably go up half a size because of that fused backing. Then for the aesthetic details, I do have the white colorway of the shoe, and they did also release a black one. It's just I'm not really that fond of black. However, if you do want to see a review on the black ones, I think JD of JD and Reviews has a review on those. So if you have the time, go check that out as well. Then back to the aesthetic details of this white colorway, you do have an all-white outsole with embossed Puma text on that pivot point and your yellow Puma cat logo on the midfoot. Then moving on to the midsole, it is also white, but it does have an interesting pattern because you do have these lines, and you also don't notice that the rubber actually wraps around to the forefoot, and you only have that exposed Pro Foam Plus from the midfoot to the heel. You also have that Clyde branding here at the heel part of the midsole, and that is a really nice callback to the Puma Clyde. Puma is a really old brand that started out with like the Puma Clyde for Clyde Frazier, and they do a really good job of incorporating their history with their new shoes. Then on the upper, it is predominantly white as well, but you do have a lot of stitching on the upper. You do have these black lines on the midfoot, and they're also on the forefoot as well. Then you have that blue stitching on the lateral side of the forefoot, as well as here on the ankle area where you also have red stitching. The stitching does have a very interesting design and pattern, and initially I didn't really like them, but it definitely looks better in hand, and it's actually cool how they incorporated that Puma logo by keeping that part of the upper free of stitching. Then you have some yellow on the fuse that serves as like the piping, and you have that Matrix Evotech branding here on the medial side of that fuse. That Matrix Evotech is basically that textile upper with that unique stitching pattern. Then here at the back, you have this gray suede, as well as a neon green stitched in Puma cat. I'm not really sure why they decided to make it neon green, but it is a very striking touch. Then for the rest, it is mostly just white here on the sock liner, the tongue, and the laces. And lastly, you do have a patch on the tongue, which has the Puma branding as well as the Puma cat. Then for the overall aesthetics, I do think it looks okay, but it's definitely not my favorite Puma basketball shoe in terms of the looks, because I would take the Clyde Hardwoods, the RS Dreamers, as well as the new Kyle Kuzma shoe over these. However, these are just such a beast on court, so even though they aren't my favorite looking Puma, this will definitely be my go-to Puma hoop shoe. I do hope that they drop more colorways of these soon, because I do think with that interesting stitch pattern, just as long as you have the right colors, these can definitely look even better. Then for the price, the Puma Clyde All Pro retails for $110 US, and that would convert roughly to 5,500 pesos. These aren't available here in the Philippines just yet because Puma takes forever to send stuff over here, just like with the RS Dreamers that released so long ago and they've only recently dropped here. So I actually had to have these shipped from Hong Kong. I got them from a seller called Lightway Shop, so if you want some Pumas or some other shoes that you can't get here, you can go and contact them, and it doesn't really cost that much because I did only have to pay the retail price plus local shipping. In my opinion, even though the materials weren't that premium, they did feel comfy on foot and they definitely do get the job done. And then you do have really superb fit, a nice and perfectly balanced cushion setup, and absolutely beastly traction, so for $110, I think it's a no-brainer. If I were to describe how much this is a steal at its price, it's probably like having a Kobe 9 EM with like a little bit of a beefier cushion setup at just $110 US or 5,500 pesos. So there you have it, guys. That was my detailed review on the Puma Clyde All Pro. I will definitely continue performance testing these once the lockdown eases up, so hopefully that comes sooner than later. Then once again, if you haven't already yet, please make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon for notifications. It would help us out a lot here at Sneaks and Ball PH.